The grand hall of Concordia shimmered like a cathedral carved from the bones of dying stars. Pillars of translucent alloy rose into a dome veined with starlight, and the air vibrated with the quiet hum of translators decoding thousands of alien languages at once. Delegates from over 600 worlds filled the amphitheater's tiers. Claws, tendrils, wings, scales. An orchestra of tension waiting for the first note to fall. At the heart of the hall stood the dais of deliberation, 12 concentric rings that descended to a single platform of obsidian glass. There, surrounded by the eyes of an empire, stood a single human, Ambassador Evelyn Drake of Earth. Her uniform was black and unadorned, no medals, no gleam of rank, only the silver insignia of the Terran diplomatic corps. In a chamber drowning in ceremonial excess, her simplicity was an act of defiance. She stood motionless, hands clasped behind her back, gaze fixed on the holographic crest of the Galactic Council that pulsed. Above the center table, the proceedings began. Session 9746 of the Galactic Council is now in order, intoned the voice of the presiding core, an AI entity older than most civilizations represented here. Its tone was neutral, sterile, and absolute. Agenda item: enforcement of the tribute edict, ratified by majority vote. Final confirmations to be recorded. Across the hall, murmurs flickered like electrical sparks. The edict had already passed in principle. This meeting was mere ceremony, a final stamp of compliance, yet everyone's attention rested on the Terran representative, the youngest member species, the unpredictable anomaly. Evelyn's presence felt like a loaded weapon no one dared touch. High Chancellor Vraxul rose from the first ring, towering over his podium. His exoskeleton shimmered with prismatic plates that refracted the hall's light into violent color. His voice carried the weight of practiced authority. The security of this galaxy, he began, depends upon collective responsibility. Each civilization must contribute 10% of its military and economic output to sustain the Council fleets. We live in an age of growing unrest, piracy, rebellion, dissidence. Our unity is the only shield that endures. He turned his gaze toward Evelyn. Multifaceted eyes caught her reflection 1,000 times. And yet, he hissed, one species stands apart. One world refuses to acknowledge the cost of peace. The chamber fell silent. Evelyn didn't flinch. You're referring to Earth. Vraxul's mandibles flexed. I am referring to defiance. The human delegation has delayed compliance for 3 cycles, citing sovereignty. That word hung in the air like smoke. Ancient, dangerous, unquantifiable. Evelyn inclined her head. Earth recognizes the Council's role in maintaining interstellar order. But compulsory tribute contradicts the foundation of that order. You call it unity. We call it servitude. The murmurs swelled again, ripples of disbelief and fascination. Some delegates exchanged uneasy glances. Others leaned forward, hungry for conflict. Vraxul tapped his talon against the table. You misunderstand, Ambassador. Tribute is not tyranny. It is contribution. All benefit from the protection of Council fleets. Do humans imagine themselves above reciprocity? Evelyn smiled faintly. Reciprocity implies consent. What you propose is coercion masked as duty. There's a word for that on Earth, he sneered. And that is? Extortion. Gasps rolled across the chamber. The presiding corps' lenses flared, recording every microsecond. Ambassador Drake, said the corps, you stand before the highest authority in the galaxy. Are you officially rejecting compliance with the tribute edict? Evelyn's voice was calm, every syllable deliberate. On behalf of the Terran Confederacy, Earth declines. For a full 5 seconds, no one breathed. Then the chamber erupted. Translators struggled to keep pace with overlapping roars. Disbelief, outrage, admiration. Delegates of smaller worlds whispered to each other, secretly thrilled that someone had finally spoken what they could not. Vraxul's voice sliced through the chaos like a blade. Declines? You would jeopardize your species' standing among the stars. You would invite sanctions, perhaps expulsion. Perhaps, Evelyn said. But integrity is not a commodity we're prepared to trade. Her tone was not defiant. It was weary, resolute, as though she'd already made peace with the consequences. That unnerved them more than rage ever could. A delegate from the Varkathi clans, her serpentine body coiled elegantly, spoke up. Ambassador Drake, surely your people cannot stand alone against the will of the galaxy. Why risk annihilation? Evelyn turned to her. Because survival without self-determination isn't life. It's maintenance. The hall quieted again. Even the presiding corps hesitated before continuing the record. Vraxel leaned forward. You speak of principles as if they can stop plasma fire. Do you think your fleets can stand against the Council Armada? Evelyn met his gaze. No, but they won't have to. Because the Armada is built on consent, and you're losing it, Chancellor. Every forced tribute you collect corrodes the trust that binds this council. You're not preserving unity. You are manufacturing obedience. Her words rippled outward, sinking into the delegates' minds. Some nodded imperceptibly. Others looked away, unwilling to be seen agreeing. The Chancellor's carapace glinted, every movement precise. You presume much for a representative of a backwater world. Do you believe Earth's defiance will inspire rebellion? That others will follow your example? Evelyn's voice softened, almost sad. Not yet, but they'll remember. The first to say no always looks alone, until they don't. Silence reclaimed the chamber. Even the ambient hum of the translation field seemed to dim. The presiding corps broke the tension. For the record, the Terran Confederacy formally rejects the tribute edict. Vote of dissent recorded. Vraxel's claws clicked against the podium. Then so be it. Let the humans isolate themselves in their fragile system. The Council will endure long after their arrogance collapses. Evelyn didn't respond. She simply reached into her coat pocket and placed a small, encrypted data plate on the table. It flickered with Terran encryption sigils. I've transmitted a report to the Corps' archive, she said. It contains the real purpose of the tribute. The Council deserves to know what it's funding. Vraxel froze. The faint hum of neural implants faltered. What trick is this? No trick, Evelyn replied. Just the truth. Hidden in your ledgers. Buried under Fleet Expansion Initiative. I suggest you review it before you accuse humanity of arrogance. The presiding corps' lenses shifted hue, accessing data streams faster than thought. A pulse of static crackled through the hall. Access confirmed, it announced. Restricted files detected within the Enforcement Wing's archives. Encryption matches Yathari military signature. A wave of confusion swept through the delegates. Dozens of languages overlapped in nervous chatter. Evelyn turned toward Vraxel one last time. You wanted our obedience. Instead, you'll have our transparency. She stepped down from the podium, leaving the data plate glowing like an accusation. The council guards didn't move to stop her. None dared. As she reached the exit, she paused beneath the arch of the chamber doors and looked back. Her voice carried softly across the vast room. Earth declines, she repeated, and the universe just heard it. Then she was gone, boots echoing against the glass floor. The whisper of her words spreading through the tears like wildfire. Outside, beyond the Hall of Concordia, the stars over Velis Prime burned quietly, indifferent witnesses to the moment the galaxy began to shift. And somewhere, deep in the encrypted networks of the Council, a hidden fleet stirred in the dark, now exposed, now vulnerable, and very much afraid of the humans who had simply refused to yield. The Grand Hall was never meant to be quiet. It thrived on noise, debate, posturing, applause. Now it lay shrouded in an unnatural stillness, as if the very air had gone still to hear what would come next. Ambassador Evelyn Drake returned to her seat with the same calm precision she'd arrived with. Every gaze followed her. Some were hostile, others admiring, but all were afraid. Fear had replaced order. At the center dais, High Chancellor Vraxel remained motionless, claws drumming softly against his podium. The data plate she had left still glowed before him, pulsing in defiant blue. Around him, aides whispered in their sibilant tongue, trying to contain the unraveling. The presiding corps' voice finally cut through the silence. Investigation into the transmitted data has commenced. Delegates are advised to remain within the chamber until authentication is complete. Evelyn folded her hands, the movement deliberate. She wasn't nervous. She was measuring the silence, letting it expand until others broke it first. It was the Kareth delegate who cracked. "This is madness," he rasped. "You accuse the Enforcement Wing of conspiracy before the entire council." Evelyn didn't rise. "I didn't accuse anyone. I just turned on the lights. The murmur swelled again, half outrage, half unease. Vraxel's voice sliced through. Enough, he gestured to the core. Restrict human access to the chamber data net. Remove her transmission from the record until verified. The core's lenses flickered amber. Council protocol forbids deletion of active submissions during verification. Transparency is mandatory. That answer landed like a thunderclap. Vraxel's mandibles twitched. So be it, then we will verify now. He extended one claw toward the glowing plate. A holographic interface blossomed above the podium. Rows of encrypted entries, each bearing the seal of the Ythari Dominion. File, Fleet Expansion Initiative 900A. The core read aloud. Content, Construction Manifest for Penance-class vessels. Quantity 43. Composition, Tribute Resource Allocations. Gasps erupted again. Evelyn rose slowly. You asked for our obedience, Chancellor. You used the language of security. But these ships, these weapons, weren't built to protect the Council. They were built to rule it. Vraxel turned toward her, voice trembling with contained fury. You dare imply that the Dominion's fleets are a threat to peace? I don't imply anything, Evelyn replied. Your ledgers state it clearly. You've been using the tribute to create an Imperial strike force. One that reports directly to you. For a moment, the chamber was nothing but the sound of breathing. The presiding delegates glanced toward one another, realization dawning like a cold dawn. The Chancellor leaned closer, voice low and venomous. You are overstepping, human. You have no standing to interpret Council defense policy. Evelyn's eyes held his. Then explain it. Tell the Council why their tribute fuels ships without registry, why your enforcement wing hides their deployment sites beyond mapped sectors. He hesitated. It was a blink, a breath, but it was all she needed. The presiding core interjected, its tone sharper now. Records confirm concealment of shipyard locations within Dominion-controlled nebulae. Compliance with Council oversight procedures is absent. The silence that followed was heavier than any outburst could have been. Evelyn walked back to the center platform, each step echoing in the vast hall. You see, Chancellor, unity isn't preserved through fear. It's preserved through trust, and once trust is gone. She spread her hands slightly. So is your council, Vraxel hissed, the subtle composure of authority cracking. You will answer for this insolence. I already have, she said. I just did. The core's lights dimmed, then pulsed red, a procedural warning. Security protocols activated. Multiple Dominion sectors are refusing data relay compliance. The chamber rippled with whispers. The Council's collective realization was instantaneous. Vraxel's network was severing its own links, hiding, confirming guilt by instinct. A delegate from the Tashar Confederacy rose. Her species' translucent skin shimmered faintly. High Chancellor, why would your sectors obstruct Council oversight if you have nothing to hide? Vraxel's claws clenched. Because this human has compromised our encryption. Her intrusion jeopardizes galactic security. Evelyn's tone remained calm. If your encryption fails under transparency, Chancellor, perhaps it wasn't as secure as you imagined. Her words carried the weight of inevitability. Every delegate could feel the shift, the tremor before collapse. Vraxel turned his fury back toward the core. Suspend Earth's membership immediately. Their envoy is guilty of espionage and destabilization of Council unity. The core paused. Motion recorded. But per Article 12, a sanction requires majority concurrence. The Chancellor's gaze swept the chamber. Then vote. Let every world here decide whether they stand with order or with chaos. A dozen hands rose. Then 24. Then they stopped. Many delegates sat frozen, unwilling to choose. Some looked at Evelyn. Others looked at their own trembling hands. The core began tallying. The votes in favor were fewer than Vraxel expected. Far fewer. Result, said the core. Motion to suspend Terran membership fails by margin of 22%. The Chancellor's exoskeleton flared iridescent red. You will regret this, Evelyn exhaled softly. I already do. She gathered her data plate and tucked it back into her coat. You've spent centuries mistaking silence for agreement, Chancellor. You're learning the difference now. He struck the podium hard enough to echo through the chamber. You think your defiance makes you strong? It makes you isolated. You will find no trade, no allies, no passage through council gates. Evelyn met his fury with stillness. Then we'll build our own gates. The words landed like a promise carved in stone. The Tashar delegate leaned forward, voice tentative. Ambassador Drake, if what you revealed is true, what happens now? The council depends on those fleets to maintain balance. Evelyn looked up toward the vaulted ceiling, where the holographic stars shimmered faintly. Balance built on deceit always collapses. Maybe it's time this one does too. Her calm tone carried through the hall, quiet but absolute. It wasn't rebellion, it was reckoning. The presiding corps spoke again. Per council code, independent audit of the enforcement wing is hereby initiated. Dominion access privileges suspended pending review. Vraxel's scream was mechanical and furious, the sound of shattering pretense. You play with forces beyond your comprehension, human. You think words can protect your species? Evelyn turned toward him one last time. Words built this council. Maybe they can rebuild it too. As the corps sealed the chamber's decision logs, she began walking toward the exit. Each step sounded like the beat of a countdown. Guards parted instinctively, their orders caught between fear and admiration. Before she reached the threshold, Vraxel's voice echoed through the hall, cold, promising vengeance. Earth has declared war on order itself. Evelyn stopped without turning. No, Chancellor. We declared ownership of our conscience. You should try it sometime. She left the chamber in silence, but the silence wasn't emptiness anymore. It was weight, the kind that shifted history. Outside, Concordia's artificial daylight dimmed as the station entered orbital shadow. Across 100 systems, encrypted transmissions sparked alive. Worlds whispered. Empires hesitated. The Council's unity, once absolute, began to fracture. Not with explosions, but with doubt. And in the quiet of her shuttle, Evelyn Drake sat alone, staring at the stars through reinforced glass. Her reflection merged with the constellations. Stage 1, she murmured, activating her datapad. The mask is cracking. The AI pilot turned its optical sensor toward her. You've made them afraid. Evelyn's gaze didn't waver. Good, she said softly. Fear means they're finally paying attention. Outside, Concordia rotated beneath the twin suns of Velis Prime, a ring of light and shadow. The council had not fallen yet, but the silence that lingered in its halls had already chosen its side. Concordia Station no longer slept. Rumors had replaced rest. For the first time in living memory, the council's comnet was flooded with encrypted messages that didn't come from the top. Delegates whispered behind closed doors. Guard patrols doubled, and every corridor carried the faint electric tension of power unraveling. Evelyn Drake walked those corridors as though the silence itself parted for her. The station's artificial day burned through the skylines of its political districts, but she didn't see light, only fracture lines. Every greeting was shorter, every glance sharper. The truth had begun to move faster than control. Her escort, a single Terran Marine named Corporal Imani Hale, kept a measured pace. Council feeds are chaos, she said quietly. Half the sectors are denying contact. The rest are pretending nothing happened. Evelyn nodded. Denial is always the last stage before collapse. They entered the observation atrium overlooking Velis Prime's twin suns. The glass stretched for kilometers, displaying a panorama of dignified ruin. The Galactic Council's flag hung suspended at the center, a ring of intertwined species symbols. It shimmered faintly, flickering where the Yaithari sigil met the light. Evelyn's eyes stayed on that point. He'll strike soon, she murmured. Imani's jaw tightened. Then maybe we should leave before he does. Evelyn turned. And let them rewrite what happened? Oh, not yet. A soft chime announced the arrival of a messenger. A young Tashar aide approached, her translucent skin pale with fear. Ambassador Drake, the Chancellor has summoned an emergency hearing. Immediate attendance required. Evelyn studied her for a moment. Required by whom? By the enforcement wing itself, the aide whispered. They're calling it a security tribunal. Evelyn smiled thinly. Security always means suppression. She followed the aide through the central corridor toward the tribunal hall. Smaller than the grand chamber but colder, designed for procedure, not politics. Metallic walls reflected every movement. Rows of uniformed officers lined the perimeter, their visors opaque, insignias stripped of nationality. At the center stood Vraxel. Gone was the veneer of diplomacy. His armor now carried the full insignia of the Dominion, obsidian and crimson, glimmering with authority reclaimed. His voice was amplified through the hall. "Ambassador Drake," he began, "you stand accused of espionage, data theft, and subversion of interstellar unity. How do you plead?" Evelyn didn't sit. "You forgot corruption, Chancellor. It's the only accurate charge here." The gallery shifted uneasily. Cameras floated above, transmitting the tribunal across every inhabited world. Billions were watching. Vraxel wanted a spectacle. Evelyn intended to turn it into revelation. "You've made bold claims," he continued. "Fabrications, I should say. The so-called files you uncovered are manufactured. The Penance-class project does not exist." Evelyn tapped her wrist device. The chamber's hologrid activated, projecting an image in the air. A fleet emerging from a crimson nebula. Massive, angular ships bearing the Dominion seal. Workers in council uniforms loaded them with containers labeled Tribute Allocation. "This footage," she said, "comes from your own supply routes near Neris Rift. Time-stamped, verified, and cross-checked against the Corps' star logs." Gasps rippled through the gallery. The image expanded, revealing one ship's registry ID matching an official council defense freighter. Vraxel's claws scraped against the floor. "Forgery!" Evelyn's tone stayed level. "You can forge a signature, Chancellor, but not a starfield. Those constellations align with Neris Rift's position exactly 12 days ago. Want to check?" The presiding core appeared as a hologram between them, its voice calm and mathematical. "Verification underway. Data authenticity at 99.87% probability. Confirmation genuine." The hall broke into uproar. Delegates shouted over one another. Guards looked to their commanders for direction. For the first time, Vraxel looked less like an emperor and more like a cornered animal. "You've endangered the galaxy with this deception," he roared. "The tribute exists to secure order. Without it, the rim worlds will burn." Evelyn stepped closer. "Then why build weapons powerful enough to burn them faster?" He raised one talon, trembling with fury. "Because you don't understand chaos. The Council must command fear to maintain peace." Her reply was quiet, deliberate. "Peace built on fear is occupation. Humanity learned that lesson centuries ago." The Corps' processors whirred audibly. "Security notice. Multiple Dominion ships are powering drives within proximity of Concordia. Unscheduled approach vector." Evelyn turned to the cameras. "There's your order, Chancellor. The moment truth entered the room, you called your fleet." The audience froze. Vraxel didn't deny it. His mandibles flexed. "You forced my hand. If you dismantle the structure that holds civilization together, you invite extinction." "No," she said softly. "You invite rebellion." He motioned to the guards. "Detain her." And this charade, the guards hesitated. They were council security, not Dominion. One looked at Evelyn, then at the cameras. Billions watching. "Done moved. Do it," Vraxel shouted. Still no one obeyed. Evelyn's voice carried, calm but absolute. "Every tyrant counts on fear lasting longer than truth. But fear doesn't scale, Chancellor. Not forever." The Corps interrupted, its tone shifting to something colder. "Alert. Incoming transmissions from 12 member systems. They are invoking Article 15, collective inquiry into leadership integrity." That phrase detonated through the room. Article 15 had never been used. It meant immediate investigation into any council member accused of systemic corruption, even the Chancellor. Vraxel staggered a step back. "You think this human rebellion will hold? You're naive. These delegates are opportunists. They'll bow when the fleets arrive." Evelyn met his gaze steadily. "Maybe, but every empire ends the same way, not by defeat but by disbelief. You've just given them reason to stop believing." She turned away, addressing the Corps directly. "Per Article Protocol, I request all Council transmissions be made public. No more private sessions, no sealed decrees. Let the galaxy watch everything." The Corps' decision was instantaneous. Request granted. "All subsequent proceedings will be broadcast without restriction." The walls shimmered. Every viewer in every system saw the tribunal unfiltered. Vraxel's composure collapsed entirely. "You've doomed us all," he hissed. "No," she said, walking toward the exit. I've just reminded them they still have a choice. 2 Dominion aides tried to block her path. She looked at them once. No glare, no threat, just quiet certainty. They stepped aside. As she passed the threshold, alarms began to sound. The Corps' voice echoed through the hall. Unregistered Dominion warships approaching Concordia. Defensive systems offline. Awaiting Council directive. Panic rippled through the chamber. Vraxel turned to his officers, shouting commands. But the Council's guards, once his enforcers, stood frozen. None wanted to be the first to obey a man stripped of legitimacy. Evelyn paused at the door. Her voice, barely above a whisper, carried through the chaos. Order built on silence always fears noise. Then she was gone. In the observation deck, she watched from the viewport as flashes of red propulsion flared against the dark, Dominion ships locking orbit. She tapped her comm. Imani? Already in the shuttle, her Marine replied. Docking bay secure. Good. Prep transmission to Earth Command. Tell them Phase 2 begins now. As she spoke, she glanced once more at the distant glow of the Council chamber, now fractured with internal light. The sound of alarms reached even here. A low, rhythmic pulse echoing through the floor. She whispered to herself, almost a prayer, almost a warning. They wanted unity. They'll get revelation instead. Outside, Concordia's defensive grid flickered to life. Thousands of energy points igniting like a constellation reborn. But Evelyn knew the first shot wouldn't come from humanity. It never had to. The truth was already doing the work, and far below, in the twin glow of Velis Prime's suns, the shadow of the Dominion fleet grew, a reminder that fear moves fastest when exposed to light. Concordia trembled. The air itself seemed thinner, charged by the vibration of engines outside the orbital shell. Red light strobed through the corridors, alarms cycling in every language. Somewhere in the distance, a voice repeated, Unregistered Dominion fleet detected. Defensive systems offline. Evelyn Drake stood in the command lift, hands clasped behind her back, her reflection fractured across the mirrored panels. Each pulse of crimson light cut her face into calm fragments. She looked neither afraid nor triumphant, only resolved. Corporal Imani Hale stood beside her, rifle slung but safety off. Council broadcasts are still live, she said. Billions are watching. Every system, every colony. Good, Evelyn replied softly. Let them see who fires first. The lift doors opened onto the upper council platform. The Grand Hall had become a war zone of arguments. Delegates shouting, aides running, guards uncertain whom to obey. Above, the great holographic crest of the council flickered, its unity ring broken into disjointed symbols. High Chancellor Vraxel stood at the center. Wings flared, armor burning red from internal power. He was done hiding behind politics. The Dominion insignia gleamed across his chest, defiance incarnate. He turned as Evelyn approached. You should have fled when you had the chance, human. I don't flee, she said evenly. I testify. Laughter broke from him, sharp and bitter. Testify? You've destroyed the only structure keeping chaos at bay. Do you think the stars will thank you for it? No, she said. But they'll finally be free to decide. He stepped closer, claws clicking against the glass floor. You talk of freedom as if it feeds anyone, as if it shields them from pirates, raiders, extinction. The council gave them peace. Evelyn's gaze never wavered. You gave them obedience. There's a difference. He leaned forward, voice dropping to a hiss. Without obedience, you'll drown in the void you've created. Maybe, she said. But at least we'll drown on our own terms. The hall went silent again. Not from command, but from exhaustion. The galaxy's most powerful leaders, for the first time, had nothing left to say. Then the ceiling above them shook. The image of the Dominion fleet expanded across every projection. Thousands of ships in formation, blotting out Velis Prime's twin suns. A council technician shouted, They've powered primary weapons. Chancellor, your forces are targeting Concordia. Vraxel froze. That's impossible. My orders, the holograms didn't care for denial. One by one, the Dominion ships angled their cannons toward the station, energy readings spiking. The weapons didn't wait for approval. They were autonomous, obedient to code, not conscience. Evelyn spoke quietly. The tools of tyranny never stop when their masters lose control. They keep running the last command, dominate. Vraxel turned to her, realization dawning with horror. You've doomed us both. No, Chancellor, she said. You built your own executioner. The presiding Corps' voice filled the chamber, emotionless as ever. Protocol override detected in Dominion fleet. Primary directive, enforce tribute compliance. Target Concordia Station. The delegates erupted into chaos. Some ran, others prayed. A few simply sat down, accepting inevitability. Evelyn raised her voice, not shouting, but steady enough to cut through the panic. All external channels open. The Corps hesitated. Confirm purpose. To speak, she said. One last time. The holograms flickered. Across hundreds of worlds, Evelyn Drake's face appeared. Pale light against the void, framed by the crumbling symbols of the Galactic Council. Her voice carried through the network like a calm storm. This is Ambassador Evelyn Drake of Earth. The Council demanded our submission. We refused. They demanded our silence. We spoke. Now they demand our extinction. We endure. Understand this. Freedom was never theirs to grant. It is not given by decree or protected by fleet. It is a choice made once and defended forever. Humanity chose. The rest of you can too. Her final line hung there, clear and unflinching. In the silence that followed, no one noticed the Dominion fleet falter. Ships began to drift out of formation. Transmission feeds filled with confusion as Dominion captains argued, their crews hesitating. Some powered down weapons. Others realigned to defensive posture. Fear had cracked. Vraxel stared at the holograms in disbelief. They're disobeying. Evelyn met his gaze. Because you taught them to fear authority. But you forgot. Fear erodes from the inside. He lunged toward her, fury replacing logic. You think this is victory? Imani stepped forward, weapon raised but unmoved. Back away, Chancellor. He froze, realizing the human wasn't bluffing. Around them, alien guards shifted, uncertain whom to protect. Evelyn took one step closer. You built an empire of submission. It lasted until the moment one person said no. He glared. You'll burn with the rest when they fire. She looked past him to the viewport, where the first energy pulses charged in orbit. Maybe, but history won't remember your fleets, Chancellor. It'll remember the silence that followed this word. She turned to the Corps. Transmit final statement to all sectors. Ready, it replied. Evelyn's voice dropped to a whisper, steady, deliberate, unmistakably human. Earth does not yield. Ever. The words struck with the precision of artillery. Across the network, countless worlds paused. On mining colonies, workers stopped their drills. In alien academies, students turned from their holograms. On ships halfway to nowhere, captains froze mid-command. The declaration echoed through every comm relay until even the Dominion's automated systems hesitated. Then, one by one, Dominion ships began to disengage. Engines flickered dark. Target locks vanished. Entire fleets broke apart as sub-commanders overrode attack orders. No one wanted to be the one remembered for firing on truth. The presiding Corps confirmed in monotone. Hostile action aborted. Fleet withdrawal detected. The sound that followed wasn't cheering. It was something quieter. Relief. Vraxel collapsed onto one knee, armor clanging against the floor. You think this changes anything? Power always finds new masters. Evelyn regarded him with a faint sadness. Then let them earn it honestly. Not through fear. She turned away, the light from the viewport washing her in pale gold. Outside, the Dominion fleet drifted apart like ash in water. Concordia remained, damaged, scarred, but alive. The Corps addressed her. Ambassador Drake, Council structure integrity failing. Recommend evacuation. Evelyn nodded. Then record this first. Humanity's vote remains unchanged. Statement logged. She looked to Imani. Let's go home. As they walked toward the docking corridor, the surviving delegates watched in silence. No one tried to stop her. None could find the words. When she reached the airlock, she paused and looked back at the hall that had once governed the stars. You built this place to keep peace, she said quietly. Maybe now you'll understand what it costs. The door sealed behind her. Minutes later, from the shuttle's window, Concordia glimmered against the twin suns, fractured, half-lit, but still orbiting. A symbol not of defeat, but of endurance. Imani glanced at her. What now? Evelyn watched the light wash over the station's broken rings. Now they rebuild, she said. Or they repeat, the shuttle engines flared, turning toward the dark curve of space where Earth's beacon shimmered faintly. Behind them, the Galactic Council remained suspended between dawn and ruin, and throughout the galaxy, whispers spread, 3 words carried by those who had seen the broadcast, repeated in defiance, in hope, in awe: humans don't yield.